I've just filled her up with E10 fuel for the first time. I'm assuming it's E10. There's E10 on the pumps. So what I'm going to do is share with you what I think I know, what I do know, and possibly some of the myths that you've heard that you don't need to worry about. But also I can tell you what the bike run's like as I head down to Bideford Bike Show. Well, it starts. That's always a good thing. I'll catch up with you in a bit. Filtering, filtering, filtering song. The filtering, filtering, filtering song. Wombles of Wimbledon, common are we, making good use of the things that we see. So good morning, good morning, good morning. I have just done 40 miles on the M5, and contrary to what you've just seen, it wasn't all filtering and slow moving traffic. I was able to maintain the speed limit for quite a bit of it. Now we're talking about E10 fuel, so let's talk about what E10 fuel is. Now, nobody has batted an eyelid for several decades about the fact we've been using E5 fuel. They haven't even noticed it on the pumps. It's only the fact that social media and all sorts now has picked up that we are changing the structure of the fuel that we buy at petrol stations. So what is E10? Well, basically, when you buy a gallon of petrol, it's watered down. A little bit like the vodka at a Spanish all-inclusive hotel. Instead of being watered down with kitchen bleach, this is watered down with ethanol, which is the E. Now, what is ethanol? Ethanol is just a man-made substance that produces a similar effect to petrol. The downside is it's quite corrosive to several materials, with like rubber and things along those lines, which is a bit of a problem when most fuel lines use rubber, which is why they only put a small amount in. Now you might think, well, what's the point? Why not just leave it as petrol? Well, the thing is, you think worldwide of how much fuel is used on a daily basis. If you can see or save that fuel usage by just 5 or 10%, that is a massive amount of time that we will be able to continue using internal combustion engines into the future. So let's dispel some myths. Ethanol is not like nitrous oxide. It isn't going to make your car any faster. It isn't going to make your car explode in a plume of smoke. It isn't going to make your average motor car or motorbike a drag strip missile. In actual fact, talking of nitrous oxide and all that stuff you see on the Fast and the Furious, nitrous oxide actually is completely inert. It doesn't burn. What it does is it changes the burn pattern inside an engine to actually cool it, which gives you a longer burn and more performance. But anyway, back to E10. So, E10. What are the myths that we've got around E10 as well with regards to the damage it can do? Well, it's not going to cause your engine to explode. I've already said that. It's not going to change massively your fuel economy. However, you may notice 1 or 2 miles per gallon either way on a tank full, but you're really going to have to look for it if you want to find it. The big difference with ethanol and an increased amount of ethanol in fuel is on older vehicles and their fuel lines. Like I said, the rubber, it tends to attack the rubber in large forms or large amounts. Now the government's put out a website that you can go and pop into and read whether your car has any issues, long-term use of E10 fuel. However, with regards to motorbikes, and especially older motorbikes like this, it's very vague, and I mean very vague. It basically says, we don't know, we haven't checked that much, we don't want to spend the money on the investigation. But here's the truth of it, and I've learned this from some websites which I personally feel are quite credible, and from some groups that, again, I think have done a fair bit of research and not just guessed at this. Is that the red arrows? Yes, it is. You probably can't see them, just gone behind those trees. Someone must be having an air day, which is awesome. So here's the truth of it. The most likely scenario that putting E10 fuel into an older bike is going to cause is if the bike is stood up for a prolonged period of time. For instance, if you don't use your bike for 4 months over the winter, it may damage the fuel lines. But it's not a be-all and end-all, and it's actually quite a simple fix. What you do is, if you're going to stand your bike up for the winter, instead of what the recommended procedure would be, which is to fill your tank up to the brim and store it, and the reason you do that is to avoid any air gaps at the top where it can produce condensation, because condensation will form rust. What you do now is you drain your tank, you run it down as low as you can, park it up just outside the garage, obviously for safety reasons, and run it so it drains the fuel out of the tank. And then if you're able to, and it's safe to do so, leave the tank cap just lifted slightly so it allows the tank to vent. That will reduce the condensation build-up and hopefully avoid any corrosion build up through the winter. So that's pretty much it. My apologies if your particular bike doesn't get away with such minor adjustments as that. I really hope you don't need to make too many fuel adjustments. In theory you shouldn't. It shouldn't change the burn pattern or the mixture in any way, shape or form. But what I'm going to do is leave you with that bit of information. Take from it what you will. Stay safe. And I'll catch you guys on the flip side.